So without any further ado, I will hand over to the CEO of Post Quantum, Anderson Chang. Anderson, over to you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. As Daryl has just introduced me, I am the CEO of Post Quantum, and we founded the company back in 2009. So from a deep tech angle, it's not brand new, but if you're in deep tech, you do need to spend the time to do all your R&D. So we've got that all out of our way now. So we're totally into commercialization and implementation. So we have, in fact, been doing that for a couple of years now. Okay, so I do not know the audience overall, your experience and expertise in this subject. So I will just make it fairly simple because this is the first of many webinars. So you can see it as an introduction. But if you already have some more in-depth questions, please ping them over, and I will answer those in the Q&A later. Okay, so what is the problem? Well, everyone has been talking about quantum computing for a number of years now. The interest first kicked off in 2014 when D-Wave announced its first quantum computer, and Lockheed Martin and Google and the CIA were the first customers. Now, a lot of literature has been written on all the benefits that it can do, all the drug research, all the protein folding, all the molecule binding, entanglement, and so on, and weather forecasting. So these are all the good stuff. However, there's a problem that people did not really want to talk about before, although now is in the mainstream news. Now we talk about it every week. For a quantum machine, it cannot do many things. In fact, it's useless in doing most activities compared to a classical computer. But the one thing it can do extremely well is to crack public key encryption. I will explain later what that means, but you can take it from me. If you use a classical machine, it will take millions of years to crack public key cryptography. But with a quantum machine, the latest estimate is it would probably take minutes or hours to crack a public key. Because what a quantum machine can not do is to do very complex computation, but it can do extremely well is you can do 1 million tries of something very simple in one go. If it doesn't work, you try another 1 million times, another 1 million times. So this is how it can catch up. In the public domain, people have always said, well, it will be between 10 and 20 years before a commercially available quantum machine will come into existence that a bank can buy, can do their credit risk analysis or trading, algo, ultra low latency trading, and so on. However, they are talking about commercially available machine. I'm here talking about a functional quantum machine. It can be the size of a stadium somewhere in the basement. You can have 100 people manning it. You can have pipes coming in and out. It can break down every 3 days. It doesn't matter. As long as it can start cracking encryption, it's doing its job. So in the cyber world, people have been talking about maybe 5 to 10 years, but in the intelligence world, people are actually talking about less than 5 years. And that's the time frame we're now worried about. We do not know when it's coming in, but when it comes in, it will be the end of the world. Who would be interested? Obviously, the state actors, both good and bad, the big tech, the banks, organized crime. These are all the actors who would have an interest. So for those of you who are not familiar with what it means, let me give you an example. In February this year, we had a huge winter storm in Texas. It was unprecedented because a lot of the pylons and cables were down. And I know a friend who lives in Houston, and he was out of electricity and water for a week. So it's no joke, because people can start dying after that time. However, there was a clear contingency plan in place, and people knew what to do. So it took a matter of weeks for everything to be back to normal. And the estimated financial impact was about $200 billion. It sounds big, but it's not, if you take the entire state into account. Now, let's look at a quantum attack and what it can do. This is a fairly typical chain that you can go from your electricity generation to the transformer, to the power grid, all the way to your house. What happens if someone could emulate what we call an electromagnetic pulse attack, an EMP attack? So it's a bit like when you're watching Pop Idol or UK's Got Talent. Whenever there's a break, everyone goes to put the kettle on. And that puts an incredible load on the electricity grid. And it's something similar. So you can keep on surging and cutting off the power supply on and off a few times, and it's going to blow the transformers. And of course, you have a contingency plan. The parts will take weeks to arrive. You think you're doing it. But the cruel part is if a hacker already can crack your encryption, they can just wait until you've got it repaired, and then they come in and blow it, and you repair and blow it time after time. That is the problem. Certain institutes have estimated this is like a $20 trillion impact on the US economy over 8 years. But what they have not estimated is the human losses, civil unrest, people all fighting. I mean, just look at the problem we have today in the UK. People are already fighting over petrol because of the supply chain problem. Just imagine if this was caused by a quantum attack. You will be seeing this day in, day out for people who will be fighting for their petrol, for their food, for their electricity, and so on. So it is a serious problem that we have to think about. Now, a little bit closer to home, in a financial transaction, a lot of the people have been talking about crypto mining, cryptocurrency, and the latest hype is on all the NFTs, about owning our digital assets, about transferring the ownership away and so on. But did you know that most of the blockchain ledgers that we use today, we use elliptic curve, which is not quantum safe. So when a machine comes, it will crack it. It will crack the ledger. Not only that, how about your wallet, your creation, the user onboarding, and then when you want to transfer your coin or your NFT to someone else, whether it's a peer-to-peer flow or whether you do it via an exchange or a custodian, all these steps are not PQ. So you have to PQ every single step end to end before you can sit back and relax with your NFTs without worrying someone will be stealing it. And some crypto diehards are saying this is not a problem. They've got it all worked out, but I can tell you it's not. Because what they're arguing about is about whether the block can be written and can become immutable. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about signing your coin or your NFT away. Unless and until you've got that quantum safe, you just cannot do it. So we have to start from somewhere. So let's think about a quantum safe ecosystem. I trained as a computer auditor more than 30 years ago. And I can tell you, in the last 20 years, there have been so many jargons which I don't even pay attention to anymore. Edge security, DLP, or this prevention or that detection or whatever. At the end of the day, it's nothing cleverer than 3 building blocks, input, processing, output, and then you have secure transmission in between. If you design your entire architecture, your end-to-end security that way, by just adhering to these fundamental principles, you will have got a pretty safe ecosystem. Now, let's now immerse into what this should look like. It's my firm belief that identity, authentication, is your gateway to your future, whether it's a blockchain or a quantum safe ecosystem. If you've got it wrong at the outset, you can forget about the rest because the wrong guy will have come in. So what's the point of securing all these one by one if you haven't got your ID correct? So you have to, before someone can come into your custodian server or in your work environment, you need to make sure it's the right person doing it. So you have to think about a quantum ready solution, which which you will be using for the many years to come, because you will be using that to link up to the rest of your platforms. Then you think about the transmission itself. In the COVID world, everyone's been working from home and we are all on our own. And no banks will be able to afford all kinds of bank-grade security to come to each house to install that kind of security, that kind of firewall for you one by one. So we have to think about a more elegant solution, which we can roll out very effectively. So we have to think about a VPN. So this is why the VPN market has shot up, but none of them are quantum safe. So you have to think about how to do it for the future in order to be in time for you to have the other quantum ready solutions. Once you've done that, then you have to think about workflow solutions, whether it's messaging, whether it's approval, collaboration, payments, processing, all the others, sending and receiving, reporting your trades to the stock exchange and so on. All these will need to become future-proof. And then in parallel, there are activities going on how to put PQ algos onto chips, onto hardware, into the IoT connectivity. So this is what a quantum safe ecosystem is like. Now a little bit about our company. Some of you by now will have thought like, well, this guy is making such big claims, so what do they know about the quantum world? Well, our group, as I said, we founded the group a long time ago. So in our early years, we spent most of our time on deep tech R&D. So we have now got a sizable portfolio of IP, of patented innovation, and so on. And some of our staff actually came from the top secret grade world. So we're used to cannot fail applications rather than commercial grade applications. So when you design that kind of security, you have to do it end to end and very securely as well. Our first commercial spin-off is in a quantum ready digital ID solution. So we're offering it as a SaaS solution that people can just go and subscribe and to have multi-factor biometrics, whether it's voice or face or voice and face in a number of verification, call center applications, and so on. A little bit about our PQ credentials. Some of you may have come across that NIST, this US standard setting body. They have got a competition now for PQ cryptography, and they're going to announce their standards in early 2022. I'm very pleased to say our original submission is now the only finalist in the code-based category. There are 3 more finalists for lattice-based, and we all believe NIST will pick one from each category for the standardization. Also, IETF is a public forum, and it more or less sets all the internet security and connectivity standards in the world. Our regional submission to their call for a hybrid PQ VPN is also being standardized. So products are already becoming available, and you do not have to wait until the quantum time comes, because it takes many years for you to migrate. So this is the overall framework that I can see in the PQ world and the history, and we have to do something about it.
Thanks, Anderson. That's really, really insightful into the sort of, not a deep dive technical, but hopefully a good overview for everybody with regards to the sort of post-quantum world, where we see it, where we see potential issues are. So just really a couple of questions on that, if we may, because a lot of people are sort of thinking, is this going to be the next Y2K? For those of us that are old enough to remember Y2K, how would you compare it to that, for want of a better word?
Okay, as it happens, I was working for JP Morgan as the head of credit risk for Europe in around 98, 99. I was also on the Y2K migration committee, and they cannot be more different. Y2K had a definite deadline, but unknown impact. As it turned out, nothing much happened. And I remember the then CEO of the bank sent an email out to everyone 3 days after Millennium saying, well, congratulations, we have just spent $286 million on Y2K and nothing happened. Y2Q cannot be more different because we have an unknown deadline, but the impact is 100%. We do not know exactly when it's coming in, but when it comes in, it will crack every single thing that we can see today, because public key cryptography is used in everything, even on this video call that I'm having with you, on the mobile call that I'm talking to other people, secure messaging app, e-commerce, everything relies on public key cryptography. So when Y2K happens, all e-commerce traffic will ground to a halt. Highly sensitive information such as customer data, healthcare data, and all these will be leaking out. So for whatever information we need to keep secret for a long time, we have to think about it. And also cryptocurrency is all the rage. It will drop to zero immediately, because unless and until you have migrated all the coins to become quantum safe, you just cannot lengthening your key size time after time, month after month, because however long the key size may be, it will still not be quantum safe.
Perfect, thank you. And I appreciate this is such a wide topic and is going to have such a wide impact in lots of different areas. So one of the questions are who and what will be affected by this? I know we've covered some of it, but is there any other areas where you think this would be affected?
Okay, so basically it's everything which relies on public key cryptography today, is all the infrastructure, all the applications, all the apps, all the e-commerce systems, and also data that you would expect that someone have to keep safe for more than 5 years. I know in the financial world, depending on the jurisdiction, is somewhere between 6 and 7 years. And if you're talking about government top secret grade record, is 25, 30 plus years, depending on the country. But think about it. If you're an asset manager, a hedge fund, or a government body, if you've got sovereign wealth fund customers, you've got all these people's identity, you've got their assets under management sizes, the portfolio construction, and all these, you have to keep away from each other for many, many, many years, because otherwise you could potentially cause some geopolitical conflicts if they all use similar asset managers and if they know their preferences given to certain sovereign wealth funds. How about the healthcare data? That the ID and my history, my medical history, you have to keep forever until I drop. How about the heavy IP industries such as pharmaceuticals, battery tech, protein tech, solar power tech? All these will all need to be kept secret for a long time. How about the IoT connectivity? Driverless cars, everyone's been talking about it, about all the cars can talk to each other, can talk to the traffic lights, can talk to the motorway. What happens if a hacker could come in and they could take control of your cars and to form a mesh of weapons? It's not science fiction. It has been demonstrated it can be done pretty easily, because if a lot of those IoT sensor firmware is really not up to date and definitely not quantum safe. So these are all the areas that we have to think about. And in fact, it's already happening because there's something called harvest now and decrypt later attack. So from time to time, we have seen internet traffic in Europe getting diverted to a particular Eastern European country for a few hours, and then they're back to normal. So in the community, people are suspecting certain nation-state actors are actually doing rehearsals so that they can grab the traffic, and then they could just store now and decrypt it later.
So how is it possible to crack that public key cryptography then?
Okay, you can forget about all the other writers. or speakers talking about how complicated a quantum machine is. In fact, a quantum machine is really quite dumb because I would say 99.9% of the activities or operations that we use today on a classical computer cannot be replicated on a quantum machine. But how to crack public key encryption? Um, if you remember, going back to your secondary school days, is what we call integer factorization. If I say A times B equals C, and A times B, A and B are two prime numbers, and okay, if C is 15, what is it? Okay, 3 times 5. What if C is 39? Oh, 3 times 13. Okay, what if C is 3, 4, 500 digits long? Then it takes a lot longer to work out A and B. And that's all to it. There's no secret behind it. The Shor's algorithm has been around for over 30 years now, and that is the formula that people will plug into a quantum machine to reverse back to get A and B. And then that is the secret to your key. So when such a computer comes into existence, it will be almost like a Frankenstein monster. Whoever's got it will all be keeping quiet, because I can bet my bottom dollar that if all of a sudden you have become the master of the universe, you can already intercept the dialogues between Boris Johnson and Joe Biden. You already know where they're going to plan the next attacks, or plan the next big budget or climate change. You can already front run a lot of the other entities in placing the right bets. What happens if you can already empty someone's Bitcoin wallet? Will you tell the world you can do it? Of course, you will have done it first before you tell the world.
So a lot of people are probably going to want to keep quiet, the first people that do come in with a working system. So who would we see as being, or who would you think as being the interested parties within this? It's probably going to be quite a wide topic, I'm guessing.
Okay, well, obviously the standard setting bodies are all interested. So you have NIST, you have IETF, you have ETSI, the European Telco Organization, you have ENISA, the European Cyber Agency, you have the NSA. Everyone is interested in coming up with a future-proof protection. And then you have the crypto community. You have a lot of academics who want to come up with the algos to make the claim that what they have is the best in the world. They have all the governments, both good and bad, because they have to protect the infrastructure and all the healthcare systems on behalf of all their citizens. Then you have to think about the commercial enterprises. How about all the banks, insurance companies, healthcare providers? And then how about the suppliers, the manufacturers of those quantum machines and the protection equipment, like Intel, IBM, Google, and then, for example, our company, plus the other suppliers. You need to create such an ecosystem. So these are all the interested parties who will want to. Some of them will want to come up with a quantum future, and some of them will want to make sure it's protected.
So how ready do we perceive the world as being for this today?
To be really honest, we are not ready at all. A few years ago, people were talking about a quantum machine, and then their focus started shifting towards what quantum cryptography was all about. And by the way, that is actually a separate branch in terms of quantum key distribution using a very clear fiber optic cable, or a quantum random number generator using quantum properties. So that's the branch of quantum cryptography. But that is not what we do, because even with QKD and QRNG, these are just components, and they're not solutions. You still need to come up with a solution to do it. So this is why you need public key cryptography in order to create that kind of applications and infrastructure for you to remain safe. We are lagging behind. And the analogy I would use is, if the UK government wants to go left-hand drive in 5 years' time, you cannot start designing and building your cars and roads in 5 years' time. You have to start doing it now. And the migration is not going to be overnight. In the community, there are different estimates. I would bet it will at least take 7 to 10 years, if not longer, for everything to be migrated across. So this is why you have to start thinking about what to do now and about what to experiment with, what to buy, what to build into your architecture. And I would caution anyone who would just want to say, I have RSA or elliptic curve today. When the standard is announced by NIST next year, I will throw that away, and then I will just use whatever is going to be new. Because in practice, no one is going to do that, even though I'm a big proponent of the future standard. Because if you have already got something which is working now, do I want to throw it away and jump into the unknown? Well, there's a solution for it. It's what we call hybridization, and I probably coined the phrase 6-7 years ago because I knew no one would be throwing what's working right now. And in fact, the NSA and NIST have also said, as long as you have a FIPS 140 compliant solution now, i.e., with your current elliptic curve primitive in there, and if you wrap it around with an adapter with some of the new standards, even if the new one did not work, or even if that one was incorrectly implemented, you still have RSA or elliptic curve, which is working. So crypto agility is a must in what you're planning to do. And then we have to think about backward compatibility, because we have encountered some clever academics. They say, I've come up with the world's best solution now. Okay, but what do you do with what you have today? Then they say, oh, you have to throw it away because we are
agility is a
yeah.
whole other topic. I'm just conscious of time. We've got a couple of questions coming from the audience. Anderson, would the assumption, this is from MS, would the assumption then be correct that any long enough non-public key would be good enough, and that the still huge challenge is the distribution of that key?
When you say a long enough non-public key, I presume you're talking about a long enough symmetric key. And symmetric key cryptography is not under threat. If you're talking about AES, for example, all you have to do is to double the key size, and then you will still be quantum safe. What is at risk is actually the key exchange itself. So when you come to do your, say, QKD, your key distribution, you still need some kind of public key algo in there to make sure you and I can exchange the session key, which will be symmetric. But once we've done that, then we'll be safe for our dialogue until you need, maybe you need to set your own parameter that you're safe for the entire session for the hour. Or if you really want to be really safe, maybe you need to rotate your key every minute or every 5 minutes.
Thanks for that. The next question coming from Michelle. What are the possible solutions apart from biometric authentication / VPN, those mentioned above? And do you know, are financial governments, etc., preparing for this, as in the Y2K prep back in Y2K days?
So what is the question there? Apart from biometrics and VPN?
So what are the possible solutions apart from biometric authentication and VPN that people should be looking at for sort of walking into this, as they did in Y2K, and are sort of institutes, financials, and governments doing this today, or what are they looking at?
Okay. Well, if I understand the question correctly, because it's a very long statement, we need to have an end-to-end solution, because you can imagine you can have the most solid pipe in the world, i.e. the best cryptography in the world, and people start attacking the joints. Then you start securing the joints, and people will start attacking the water going into the pipe. So I would say the ID part is more like the control of whether it's water or petrol going into the pipe. And then all these tunnels are the VPNs, but you still need to think about the applications one by one. If your application is your messaging app, then you think about the joints, i.e. your key exchange, to make sure that's secure. And then once you've done your messaging, then you have to make a payment, then another public key exchange between your payment app and the other follow-on apps. So all of that you need to become PQ. So there's no one solution there.
So it's probably a combination of the flow within there, the joints, the ingress, the out, the egress points, etc.
Obviously, one thing you need to practice is segregation of duties, segregation of control points. So you just cannot rely everything just on a secure tunnel or secure ID. So if you have to mix and match, and then nowadays you have sort of multi-factor, even biometrics, you can make it multi-factor, face, voice, haptic, movement, and so on. But then you also have to think about multi-factor in terms of the human factor and the device and all the others. So we actually have some other solutions which you can combine those and make the whole thing PQ, but we just don't have time to go to it now.
Thanks for that. I'm just conscious of time. We're down to the last question now from Capidan. Can quantum computing break hash functions, and is it quite common, such as in blockchain, etc.?
Okay, that's a good question, and I bet you must be in the blockchain cryptocurrency community. Hashing is actually PQ. So you get a lot of those blockchain people saying, oh, the chain itself is quantum safe. So what's the problem? I'm not talking about the hashing part. And there's no need and no point for anyone with a quantum machine to try to reverse that. I'm talking about the signing away of your coin or of your NFT. You can imagine if the underlying thing is using elliptic curve, and I already have my coins in my wallet, it's not about you stealing my wallet anymore. You don't have to hack my wallet anymore. It's almost like me following, like you following me to go home, and then you look at my lock. You don't even need to steal my key anymore. You look at my lock, you X-ray it, you can then replicate what that key is. Then you have the public key to start signing away my crypto coins to some other people. And once the recipients can no longer tell whether the transfer was actually signed by me or by you or by someone else, then the trust is gone. Then the value of that coin will drop to zero. So that's what I was talking about. It's not about people trying to reverse the hashing or whatever. That is just the recording of the transfer. I'm talking about the actual signing, the initiation of the transfer.
Thanks for that, Anderson. That's really insightful. And if anybody has any other questions, please, I put my email address in the chat there. But as we can all tell, this is quite a wide topic and is going to have some wider implications, and it's going to touch the whole of our digital life, really.
So what I will just end with a summary of the key steps one have to think about. If you're an enterprise or, for example, a bank, you really have to start thinking about it. You have to initiate the entire project because it's a multi-year effort. You need to have board buy-in. You need to have quarterly review because the regulators or the insurance industries will be coming after you. Because just imagine in 2 years' time, underwriters will start saying, what is the point of underwriting a risk which will materialize and there's no defense against it? So you need to show you have a quantum migration plan in place. You need to show that activities are being done to make sure your critical assets are secure. You have to appoint your project manager, assign budgets, and assign people to it. Some of the banks are already doing it quietly because they know there will be a shortage of people. You have to start thinking about the inventory audit to make your stuff crypto, agile, and backward compatible. And you have to start thinking about all the gateway, all the ID, all the other solutions. So this is how I would see the initial steps that one has to follow through.
Thanks, Anderson. That's really helpful. That sort of leads in quite nicely. Thank you all for your time today. We will send out the recording of this session in the next 24 to 48 hours. So if you want to review it or share it, if you require any further information, please go to our website, post-quantum.com, or message me at dhire@post-quantum.com. The next in the series, which will probably be around this time next month is looking at the topic of what is crypto agility. And hopefully I think you'll all appreciate that that's going to be quite a broad topic as well. So thank you all for your time again. Any questions, please let me know. Thank you very much.